kind of noise. All right, family, it's your brother Assad.
And I'm Adrian.
And we are back again with another quick video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell so that you'll be notified when we drop new content on this channel. Secondly, in terms of housekeeping, I gotta give a shout out to my South African family for all the love you guys have shown this channel, my family, myself. We truly, truly appreciate it. You guys are super duper in my book. I don't care what anyone else says. So, and anything third, I want to say that our next South African-American dialogue is coming up real soon. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be centered around criminal justice. I think I'm going to have 2 judges, one from South Africa and one from the United States. And we're going to have a good conversation about the law. Bam, 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 bam. And criminal justice. So look out for that. Now, I am super duper excited to introduce this young lady to this channel. So often when we talk about South Africa, we are just centered right in Joburg. Like I make it clear, Josie stole my heart, right? I love Johannesburg. Johannesburg is the place that we are moving, but there's so many other experiences that one can have in South Africa, and this sister has had a different experience than just going to Josie and hanging out, right?
More than just Rose.
More than Rosebank in the malls, right? Although I love Rosebank in the malls, and that's what I plan on doing when I go back in March. But this sister has had a different experience. So without further ado, I want to introduce Kelly, and I will let her tell us a little bit about herself, and then we'll get into this conversation.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Kelly, and I'm from Miami, Florida. I once lived in South Africa, but I have visited, at this point, I can't even count the amount of times, at least 5 times over the last like 4 years or so. My last stint there was for a little bit over a year. I lived in several places. I lived in Pretoria, I lived in KZN, and I also lived in Mpumalanga, the Bushbuckridge region.
Check it out.
Area.
So tell us what got you there? How'd you end up in South Africa and living in all these places?
So it's kind of a long story, but to get to the point, my first initial entrance into South Africa was as a graduate student. I attended George Mason University, and at that time they had kind of like an executive study abroad program for folks that were working. So I was really thankful for that, where we were able to visit several countries. I chose South Africa. So I spent a week at the University of University of South Africa, I believe. And then the second one was at the University of Cape Town. And it was great. I loved it. It was like my initial foot there. I've also volunteered in the Rustenburg area, in the Bafokeng Nation spot. There's someone that I know who is a former Peace Corps volunteer who has a nonprofit. So I went there for about a week and a half. And then the third time that I've been there so many times, the third time that I was there, I went as a Peace Corps volunteer. And that is when, as a Peace Corps volunteer, the first initial the first few months you go there, you get training for what you're going to be doing on the ground. I was a health volunteer, and also we get language training. And then that's when I lived in the first village. And then I went to my site, which was in KZN. Unfortunately, I had to change. And then that's how I ended up in Mpumalanga, the Bushbuckridge region. But during my travels there, I have visited Pretoria as well, Joburg, and Cape Town. So yeah.
Very nice. I mean, that's such a wide range of experiences.
Yeah.
Right?
I gotta always ask this question. Was that your first time on the continent when you went to South Africa?
So it wasn't my first time on the continent, but it was my first time in the southern region. My first introduction to the continent was to Egypt. I lived in
Okay.
Egypt for 6 months. And then while I was living in South Africa, I also was able to go to Ghana. And I went
Oh,
there. I went
all
there in
right.
December. I went there twice. I went there during the return, the year of the
Yeah, the
return.
return. Yeah.
And then I loved it. So I went back a couple months later, while I was still living in South Africa. So now I just need to go to like Tanzania, Kenya. That'd be cool.
Okay. So now, what time frame are we talking that you first arrived in South Africa?
At the very first time in grad school, I think, oh my goodness, maybe like 4 years ago now.
Okay.
But I returned back from South Africa. We had to get emergency evacuated March 2020, but I recently went in August of 2021, and I'm going again this time in April of 2022.
Oh, all right. Wait, right. You were there in December, right? Or
I
no,
was there, and I was there in December. Let me tell you,
yeah.
listen, I have been going to, like, I tell you, I lost count. Like, I really lost count, like, at this point, and I know I'm gonna go again in December.
So okay, so Egypt, and I want to ask this question. So Egypt, you know, that the northern part of the Sahara, right?
Mhm.
Is kind of Berber Arab, right? But when you get into
Yes,
that sub-Saharan Africa, you
yes.
get, you know, people that look like us.
Mhm,
Now, your experience growing up in Miami, I'm sure you
mhm.
have a lot of ethnicities, Mexican, the Cubans, the Haitians, the
Yes,
Jamaicans,
Yeah.
right?
yes.
Uh, how did it feel when you first touched down in a place where a whole lot of people look just like you? You know, did you have some sort of I don't know, I want to call it an awakening, but some sort of existential experience? Is that the right word? I don't know. It might be, might not be.
I think that that's a really good question. It really goes, especially like ties into identity. I think it deeply depends on like the region that you're in. The first time I really saw a lot of like Black people that look like me was actually in Egypt. I went to Upper Egypt, where the Black people are,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
or like who had like Black skin like me at least, because in Egypt, um, they are of different shades.
Mhm.
And so, but when you go to Upper Egypt, they always say, "Oh, welcome, welcome." They look like me. They're like, "Oh, welcome."
Yeah,
So that
yeah.
was cool because that was just an experience that I wasn't expecting. And then I feel like most people, maybe not everyone, but I can speak for myself, going back during the year of 2020, it was just very special. There was like a special like mist in the air. I think that because I love history, I read a lot of books. I always tell people that I visited places in books first before I
Mm,
went. I always tell people that. So
yeah.
there's places that I want to go just because I read about it. So like I want to go to like Tanzania, because like I read about like the peace agreement. And when I went to Ghana, I was so excited because I read about Kwame Nkrumah, and
Yeah.
how his visit to the United States inspired him going back and just making a lot of efforts back in Ghana. And Ghana has always had a special connection with African Americans, as well as Black people in Europe. So I just felt connected there. But that was beautiful. I feel like Ghana is a place where I feel like I seem like my cousin. I don't know, like in Ghana, I feel like everybody looks familiar. I was like, whoa, this is interesting. And my mom was the same way. Like I just did not feel like I was out of place at all. A lot of folks that I ran into in Ghana in particular, they knew a lot about like the American slave trade. So they knew why I was there, why my family was there. They had a lot of respect. When I remember when we did the tour at, people call it the Mamina Castle. I'm like, it's kind of a dungeon, but to Amina, our tour guide, he was very serious. He handled the conversation of like the transatlantic slave story with care, and I appreciated that. In the southern region, what I really love about South Africa, I grew to really like about South Africa, is just like their pride in language. I feel like South Africa, there's a lot of identity, like in the languages that they speak. I was lucky to be in Pretoria, where a lot of they speak like Dumelang. Where's Dumelang? I think that's Sotho. But the one of the families that I was staying with spoke Zulu. Another family I was staying with spoke Sangha. So I was always surrounded by a lot of different like languages and nuances. And I think that my Peace Corps experience, that's one of the things that I was able to just really understand. I would never say that I am an expert, but I will say that each time I go and spend time with like the families that I've lived with, I learn a little bit more and more of about the nuances of culture and Black identity, not only on the continent, but especially in South Africa.
Man, you know what? I want to touch on those nuances of Black identity, but I want to go back to Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah actually went to Lincoln University, and he pledged Phi Beta Sigma. That is my friend.
Yes, he did.
I had to.
You want to say?
That's my friend.
Yeah, I mean, he really, you know, he is a giant, you know. He wrote a lot of books, and he dreamt of like the United States of Africa. So he really wanted he really had like a Pan-African mindset, and he wanted just to see more on the continent. And you know, if it wasn't for him, you know, who would have known if a lot of countries, I think eventually they would have been able to get independence, but he definitely did. He was one of the leaders to start that conversation.
And not to dwell too much on Ghana and Kwame Nkrumah, but Dr. King actually went to Ghana when it went from being the Gold Coast to Ghana, and he talked about how inspired he was to see this nation, and it inspired him to go back, even though he was already doing the work, to see like the liberation of Black Americans. And but there's nuance.
Synergy.
There's nuance. Something you want to jump in?
No, go ahead.
Oh, there's nuance of Blackness that you mentioned. I like that phraseology. So when we get to South Africa, and I know I always have to say this, you know, I know my colored family have a totally different history, totally different identity, but from the American perceptive lens, we see light-skinned Black folk and dark-skinned Black. You know what I'm saying? Like the colored family is be Black. So when you talk about, I want to know what you mean when you talk about this, like these nuances of Blackness.
Well, I think that from the American lens, like when we think about like Blackness and like what that means, it's based off of color. And the more I travel the world, especially in such a culturally rich place like South Africa, their identity is really shaped a lot around like their language and also the customs of what their particular clan or tribe, I don't know if, you know, people call them different things, like what they do. So like the Zulu people or the Zulu tribe, like they bury folks a certain way. There's certain things that you're supposed to do depending on the way that the person dies. A culture of like greeting, you know, like you have to greet folks. Like when I went there, I was like so disrespectful. I had no idea, right? So, you know, but then as I started to at least pick up like some of like the cultural nuances, knowing like when to greet people, how to greet people, not just walking up to someone and like asking questions, you know, like it's rude. So so when I talk about like identity, there are certain things that that's kind of picked up, and you won't really pick it up unless you're like in someone's house or like around someone who exhibits those things. I think that culture, you can find culture like anywhere, but I think that there's a particularly richness of culture that you find like in villages, just because they're away from like the like the large areas. Can you find culture in the city? Absolutely. But I think when you're like away, like in the villages, like you kind of like see it a little bit more deeper or more intense. But that can also just be like my experience.
So go ahead.
I had a question about just your homestay, because that's really unique. For being able to
Yeah.
live with people, you really get an inside view of a
Mhm.
culture. What were just some of the things, one or two things that really stood out to you about cultural practices of the families that you stayed with? That will, some things that maybe just impressed you in such a way that even made you want to live a little differently or something like that.
I think that's a good question. I always say that there are some things that I picked up in South Africa that I'll never let go of. I don't care how American I am, I will always just like keep some of those things in mind. Something that I just had like a lot of epiphanies being like away. And one of the epiphanies that I had was that I always knew that America was like an individualistic like society. I know that, right? Like we know that. But while I was in South Africa, I was really able to experience, like they say, like the Ubuntu spirit of like everyone helping each other. I always say, and it was something I actually had to get accustomed to. I always tell people like there are no walls in an African household, but you can't, with that being said, you can't say like all households are this way, but the households that I was in, I never felt like I was alone. If I remember in the book, so there's this book that Peace Corps gives like the like our families like to like host Americans. And I remember in the book it was talking about how Americans have this thing called alone time. And then like in the book it was saying, oh, don't be alarmed if the American goes in their room and closes the door. You know, in America we have something called alone time. They're not mad, right? And so just being like never feeling like I was alone in one of my hosts homes. If my host mom didn't see me for more than like, I don't know, 10 hours, she was knocking on my door. She was like, ain't no alone time in here. But she just wanted to make sure that like I was okay, that I was like, and they really started to understand like the nuances of like my personality. Like if I walked, like they knew if I walked different, like they knew everything about me just because they just like got to know me. And you know, as we have seen the unfortunate death of so many people like committing suicide, I think that that's something that I've learned to just be more aware of the people around me. I'll say that. So that's one of the things that I like. Yeah, and the appreciation for like having kids, like just having like family around you. So yeah.
But no, that's a very important to be aware of the people around you. A lot of times we just have, as Americans, we have people around us, but are we truly consciously aware of what's going on with them?
Absolutely.
Are we checking? You know, like I was having a conversation with a brother from South Africa. So here in New Orleans, the way we greet, you know, so greetings are obviously a cultural thing, you know, way we greet, you pass somebody, how you doing? The response is literally, how you doing? It's not fine. It's not good. It's how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Right?
Yeah.
And if a person were to sit up there and actually tell you, like if you say how you doing, and they would say, "Hey man, you know I'm having a tough day. I lost my job." We'd be like, "Man, why are you telling me this? I don't care about how are you doing." But if they ask how are you doing, they really mean how are you doing, and they want an answer.
Yeah, like my neighbors, like I knew my neighbors, I knew the corner store folks, I knew people around me. I was also like this American, just like roaming around one
Yeah.
of the villagers. So I also had like the eyes on me just because like they were like, who's this person speaking English? But it was nice. It was a really good experience. I loved it.
Yeah,
Nice.
definitely.
Mhm.
So did you learn a language? Did you pick up a language?
Yeah, so a part of our Peace Corps training, it's like rapid fire Zulu. We had to be above the novice level. I think it was like a mid, like conversational mid. We had to take a test. Like it was serious. If we didn't pass the test, we could not go to our site.
Wow.
I didn't pass my test. Like I'm gonna tell you, I did not pass my test. So this isn't one of those stories like, oh, she passed her test, she won. No, I failed my test. And so as a result, I had to stay back while everybody went to their villages. I had to stay back and get like intensive training. I wasn't the only one, there was other people. I got intensive training, and then we had to test again. And in South Africa, like if you don't pass your language test, they send you home to America. So it was
Wow.
serious. Yes, it was serious. Like they make sure that we know like the very like basics of the language. Are we going to be fluent? Absolutely not. But I knew a lot. But of course, when you get to, you're like speak with your instructors, they speak a little bit slower. And so when you get to your village, those people they're speaking lightning fast. But
Yeah.
I was able to at least greet and pick up on a lot of things. And like I said, I didn't stay in KZN too long. I stayed for about 3 to 4 months. And then after that, I went to another region where they speak Shasanga slash Shangani. But I still want to pick up on my Zulu. And that's something that I'm still like working on because of that foundation that I have. I do have a strong foundation in it. Yeah.
So I want to kind of touch on these greetings because I hear about these greeting practice. That's part of my discipline. So tell me about the greetings.
Yeah, so each, there's 11 different official languages in South Africa. So you just greet like Avishani, Aye, Minjani, Ikona Minjani. It's like, hey, how you doing? I'm fine. How are you? There's just like, you say that to everyone. Like
Wow.
literally you walk into a house, Aye, Dumalong, Sawubona, you just speak, you speak to everyone. And
Individually, or it's a group of 5 people. You have to say that to each person,
if
or
there's
can
a
you group?
group if there's a group of 5 people and you walk into a house, I mean, I don't think you say it to everyone,
Okay.
but like you do greet everybody. Like you greet the person at the grocery store before you speak to them. It's really rude, like to not do that. And I have made that mistake. I think that like if someone goes who is like American, they might just walk up to someone and start asking questions. I think that like maybe if it's like in a tourist area, someone like maybe accustomed to that, but like culturally, like you don't really want to do that. So I always tell people like, if nothing else, like please learn how to like just say one word, like hi, like in one of the languages, so they can at least feel like you're trying.
You know what I noticed? We talk a lot on the phone with South Africans. And I noticed about phone etiquette. And in many parts of the world, when you end a phone conversation, it's all right, goodbye. That's it. And in South Africa, it will be bye.
Sure.
It's an extended, it's a
Mhm.
prolonged goodbye. It's
Mhm.
kind of back and forth. It happened to me today when I was talking to our real estate agent. I was like, okay, thank you. That's kind of where I'm done, right?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
and she's like, yeah, thank you. And then she said something else, and I was like, I felt obligated to say something else, and it was just back and forth.
And it kept going back. Y'all didn't really know where to hang up. Yeah, sometimes, and that's like some of the like nuances of language. During my like Peace Corps training, like they try to teach us like, I'm gonna say Ebonics, but like put like stuff that people like say if you're like walking down the street. Like eta, like, you know, like hi, but it's like it's not standard.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
Mhm.
I understand, basically I understand where you're coming from. Mhm.
So let's talk about the food because I'm fat and I
Yeah.
like to eat. So
Okay, me too. I like to eat too.
so tell us about your food experience there. I just want to hear whatever you got.
So the food experience was different from the United States. Different spices. I was like, what's going on? This is different. But I think that the food in South Africa is amazing. I think that the beef in South Africa is great. I ate a lot of pop. I know I ate a lot of pop. I feel like you can't go to South Africa and like not eat pop. I ate a lot of shakalaka, a lot of the 7 colors, which like beets, potato salad, yeah, uh, sweet potato, yam, sweet potato. So I thought that the food, for the most part, was good. It was different, but it was great, and I miss it.
Did you do a lot of braai?
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
We had braai. Well, that's what people do, right? You have braai and you have grilled meat, and some pop.
Yeah.
Pretty. And or like moroho, which is like spinach, and pop.
Somebody said if you cook the pop just right, you can make it taste like grits.
I think what I explain to people is pop is like hard grits.
Yeah.
Sometimes it depends like who's preparing it, because it can be very like soft in a sense, like almost like mashed potatoes. But yeah, and then put like a gravy over it, like this tomato gravy. It's not grits, because I love grits, but whenever I try to explain to people like what pop is, I always say it's hard grits.
Yeah. So what you got, Adrian Warren?
I just have like, I would love to hear like some of your best memories. I love storytelling because I think you always learn so much through storytelling. So what is your best memory or one of your best memories?
One of my best memories. I mean, so many. One of my best memories of South Africa. I mean, I've had so many. I think something that I didn't expect to learn in South Africa was about environmental work and just poaching in general. The region where I was, it was a tourist area, about 2 hours outside of Nelspruit, more close to like the Orphan Gate, so Kruger National Park. So because I was working in the community, we would go to a lot of like environmental stuff, and I was like, okay, I was a health volunteer, but I went. It was needed, and we would learn about how like poachers would go into like Kruger National Park, and they would like cut holes in the gate to poach animals. But the thing is, like, if you cut holes in the gate, there are animals there, and animals can get out. So sometimes like lions would get out of the gate, and they wouldn't really like attack people, but like there was in the village next to us, there was a guy, he was holding a hog on his back, and one of the lions came out, and the guy, he ended up dying because of the hog that was on his back. So I was just like learning about just like a bunch of stuff that I just did not expect.
This happened while you were there?
Yes, it happened. It happened while I was there. And then sometimes like the elephant will like get out of because where we were, that's where like animals roamed free, but now they're just behind a gate at Kruger National Park. But like sometimes they will like get out. Do they get out all the time? No, but they do get out. And like my host mom, she would tell me like when she was young, like how her and I guess her neighbors, like her peers, would like light fire and how they used to like fan the lions away. She was like, yeah, when we were young, we used to fan the lions away. I was like, really? Yeah,
That's
I was
brave.
like, oh, that's crazy.
I see a lion, I'm passing out.
I used to be so scared. Like, please do not let this be the day that a lion or a wild dog escapes, from. But it's beautiful. Just in this region, I think that a lot of times, a lot of people, because of like the negative images that they, that the media, international media has painted like of the continent, that a lot of people like to put like a lot of emphasis on the Pretorias and the Cape Towns and the Durbans. And I think that's fine, right? Because there are large buildings, there are beautiful 5-star hotels, but like animals are there, and there are like villages where people live, and I think that their stories should be honored, but not like pathologized. Am I saying it right? Am I saying it correctly? I'm not sure.
We're gonna say yeah. We're gonna say yeah.
I think that their story should be honored, but in a tasteful way, right? Like not in like a hopeless type of like sense. Because I stayed in a village, but I had a wonderful time. All villages created the same? Absolutely not. And I saw that variation. Another really cool thing that I did was I went to a Shembe church.
I'm glad you said. I was going to ask about. Go ahead.
I went to a Shembe church, which was amazing. When I heard there was a Black Jesus, I was like, gotta see it. A Black Jesus? Yeah. What? Oh. So when
like Michael Evans, good time.
I had to see it. So my instructor, again, going back to training, we learned like not only language, but also about like culture, about burials, about weddings. And so we got on the conversation of Shembe. And so he was like, yeah, Kelly, like I was about to be like Shembe, I might do it. I might become, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so when I went to KZN,
explain to people who may not know what Shembe is.
Shembe is a Black god. It's like he's like, I think he's considered God. So Shembe, Shembe, Shembe. And so the people that worship Shembe, you can always tell who they are because they grow their hair out. And they grow their hair out. And so when I went to my site, I would tell everyone, I was like, I want to go to a Shembe church, take me. And everybody was like laughing. I was like, no, I'm serious. I really want to go to a Shembe church. And so I finally found someone who allowed me to go to a Shembe church with them. It was this guy, he worked in my clinic. He is a nurse, and he asked his mom to allow me to come. And so folks that follow Shembe, they have like, I guess like revival, if that's what you want to call it. They have two. There's one where they walk really, 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 really long, like up a mountain. And then there's another one like revival that they have. It's near Durban. And so when you go, you can go like the entire, of course me, I went the entire weekend because I was like, I need to see this man. I need to see this man. So they don't, I think started on, okay, so Shembe Church, when you go like up to the mountain near Durban, you don't wear shoes. You have to, I think they don't use electricity on Fridays. And then they like stay like up in the mountain, so to speak. It's kind of like a mini fair retreat place. And then they have church on Saturday. So the church on Saturday, all the women sit with women, all the married women sit together, all the men sit together, and then the women that are considered like like version girls, they sit together too, and it's thousands of people.
Wow.
When like as far as the eye can see. And when they sit there, you have like the preacher and they go, ah, man. And so I wanted to, ah, man. And then while I was there, I saw exorcism. It was like in the distance. So,
Wow.
and then I was able to meet Shembe. But oh my gosh, it was crazy. Like I had to get like approval from like the church. I had to be like introduced to like the elders, like take pictures and stuff. But people, Shembe is like, he's God, right? So the closer and closer you get to Shembe, um, the closer I walked to Shembe, the more people with ailments I saw. And when you go up and when you walk to Shembe, people get lower and lower and lower and lower. So by the time you like get to like the front of Shembe, like his feet, like people are kind of like climbing on the ground. Like it was very interesting. And so as a form of worship, you see people like split up into different groups and they dance. So you have like the virgin women that dance, you have the married women that dance, you have the virgin guys that dance, slash like the older men that dance. And so if you look up online, like the Shembe church, you'll hear that they dance to like a certain cadence. So when I was in KZN, I used to hear them like practice all the time. And so when I went to the church, I already knew like the cadence when I got there. So I had a lot of very wonderful experiences. I don't take it for granted. I don't know how or why that I was able to see something like that, but I've always had like a very like rich like understanding like for that. Like sometimes people have allowed me to like be a part of like their ceremonies. One of my my bosses, she became she became a sangoma, which is like a spiritual advisor in a sense. And like I was able to go to like her ceremony. I've been to a lot of stuff. And,
Wow.
Is Shembe kind of like the Dalai Lama, where there's a sort of a reincarnation, and as one passes, another comes to life?
yes.
Okay.
Absolutely, because the original Shembe, and I wish I still had like his material in front of me. Yes, the original Shembe, he passed, and then he passed it on to another person. And so yeah, it's like the Shembe church. It's great.
Interesting.
It's absolutely fascinating, and I think that you know, if you when you move there, if you know someone that goes to the church, that it's just interesting experience. I'm just so thankful.
Man, my South African family gonna hook me up. If they watch it this long, first of all, they soldiers, if they watch it this long.
All right.
But I'm sure if I say I want to go to a Shembe church in March, my South African family gonna hook it up, man. The greatest resource that South Africa has is its people. These people are just, at first I thought it was fake. I was like, these people can't be this nice. I'm from the South. You're from the South. We know nice people, but we're not that nice. Like South Africans are really go out of their way, nice people. We said we were going to go to SA in December. We kind of talked about it on the YouTube channel. And if my inbox didn't light up with invites to places to go to, I just want to meet you for coffee. I want to sit down and tell you about my city. Man, brother Ezekiel Easy took me to Alexandria Township. Ronaldo took me to El Dorado Township, you know, and Soweto, Soweto, because Henry would be mad if I said it. But yeah, so these people, I mean, just this morning, I got a email from I got at least 4 different emails from people on the ground in South Africa invited me to do something, just letting me know something. One sister from the University of Witwatersrand. I don't know if I said that right. Wits. She did you know that there's a Black History program at a University of Wits?
No, I
Like
didn't
for
know.
the there's a center that studies the United States at Wits, and there's like this another part that studies, I guess, Black Americans. This is amazing to me. But anyway, yeah, man, there's a lot of love to South Africa. So I'm sure if I say I want to go to a Shembe church, I can get the hookup.
Yes, indeed.
I can get the hookup.
But look, we've been going on.
Yeah. This has been.
It's gonna be long.
Well, this has been a few, but this is such an interesting conversation. So but I'm not finished. I'm not finished, Kelly.
Come on.
A few more minutes. Just a few more minutes. I promise. I promise. Are you planning to relocate to SA?
That's the dream. I would, yes. In short, yes. In short, yes. And so, when is it gonna happen? I'm not sure. But the hope is to move and live in South Africa. I'm getting married. And so and I'm getting married in I'm getting married in South Africa.
Is your partner South African?
Yes, my partner is South African. So the traditional wedding is coming up in April, and then I have to return again in December. That's why I keep going there. I got so much.
We need to go back in April for the wedding.
Wait, hold on.
Right.
Was it Lobola?
Yeah, Lobola.
Wait, who pays the Lobola? The man pays the Lobola.
The guys pay the Lobola, yeah.
Do you have to pay it to your mom?
Yes, he will be paying. I
was joking.
No, because I really want to honor the traditions, like his traditions. I don't want to come in as like this American and just like change stuff. So I do want to honor he's Sangha in Zulu. His mom is Zulu, his dad is Sangha, so I think like technically he's Sangha. And so I just want to honor the traditions of his family. And so, my parents, in America, we don't really do nothing like that. Yeah. But yes, my mother will be getting some cows.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, it was serious. It's serious.
Now, what's she gonna keep them cows in Miami?
That's a very good question. We were kind of thinking like maybe we could just like leave the cows there, or you can sell the cows and then get money for the cows, But with me being here, it's a bit. We're gonna like speed up the process, but we're gonna do everything. We're doing everything. We're gonna have like a whole ceremony and stuff, and yeah.
Well, absolutely, congratulations on that. Now that is beautiful. That is something that. Well, I guess I want to ask about that. We interviewed a lady named Ashley in Africa, and she talked about dating. If you don't mind, you don't have to get personal, but did you find a difference between the dating like South Africans versus like African Americans?
Kinda, yeah. I gotta put a disclaimer. This is my experience and my observations.
Yeah.
In South Africa, if you are like around a guy, like you're automatically dating them. Whereas in the United States, we always grew up with like, oh, like this person is a friend who happens to be a guy. So I was very careful with just spending time around guys, like in general, because I didn't want them to think it was more than what it really was. So I think that like that just, like if there was like a difference, like I just had to approach it and make sure that like my time was spent sparingly. That makes sense. Yeah. Like with the guys like around me, but I didn't really see that much of a difference. I would say, seemingly, it seems like some of the guys in South Africa were more like, oh yeah, like I do want to get married, I do want to like settle down. Whereas some of these guys in the US, they want to play around. I'm like,
Forever.
Yeah, they're watching Kevin Samuels.
they want to do them.
Yeah.
So I'm not mad at it, but that if there were any like observations that I saw, that was one like of the differences. When my family met his family, like officially, like, we had to sit down as a family and really like meet each other. I think what made it easier for me to date him was that I already like knew his family. Like, I met the sister, I met the mom, I met the dad. He was actually the last person that I met. And so it just made it a little bit more easier. And I think it goes back to being a bit siloed in the US. Relationships tend to be just between like the partners, whereas in South Africa it's like a family thing.
Yeah,
Like, and it can be good, right? When it's good, it's good, and when it's bad, it's bad. And thankfully, knock on wood, it's been fine. And so I haven't had a dating experience in the US that included the family as well.
Man, I think that's important. Traditionally, marriage was not about two people coming together. Marriage was about two families coming together.
Yeah.
It is not until the romanticism of the late 1700s that we start this idea that romantic love supersedes this type of intermingling between families to interconnect people married so that I could have a ally in England and an ally in France. That's what type of stuff. And the people don't realize that Romeo and Juliet was a warning against that type of romanticism, right? It's a Shakespearean tragedy. It's like, don't see what happens when you just run around willy-nilly falling in love. But
controlled by your passions.
Yeah. But oh man, this has been such a wonderful conversation. It's 8:55. Well, it's been about 55.
Oh, it is.
It's been a long one.
And I don't want to hold you. I just want to thank you so much. We're back in S. You said you're back when?
So I go the end of March.
Oh, okay.
And I'll be there till around mid-April.
Okay, well, we are mid-March that we're back, and hopefully that will be, we're getting apartments and stuff, and then hopefully we'll be back in June. So when you're back in town and we're back in town and in SA, hopefully we can all hook up with what's your partner's name? If you don't, I ain't trying to put it.
His name is Patrick.
So hopefully we can all hook up and do a braai. Hopefully we have our place. I may try to hook up the braai. It's gonna taste like barbecue, but we'll hook it up.
That'd be nice.
Kelly, thank you so much for talking with us. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All righty. Well, family, that's it. If you stuck around this long, you are a soldier, a general, and everything in the Assad Adrian Army. But yes, just a quick reminder, if you are here, we do have the South African-American dialogue coming up on criminal justice. So be on the lookout for that soon. Anything else you want to add?
Nothing else.
All right.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you, guys. Is that the end of record? No, that's not it. Is it still? Oh, stop.
I may have to edit this.